All right, what's up guys? Today we're going to be doing a tier list video for raw carbon fiber paddles. I did this video last year for all of the brands, just as companies overall, and today I am going to be focusing only on raw carbon fiber because that's the hot topic these days, and there are a lot of them, and new clones coming out every single day, so I wanted to kind of let you know what I think of each of the companies. Before we get into it, I just want to talk about kind of how I'm going to measure this. For me, the things I'm going to weight the most are price and performance. Durability, warranty, the company as a whole, like I might factor those in a little bit, but they're not going to be the bulk of my decision. A lot of you in the previous tier list video gave me some great feedback on how I should be doing these, and maybe some of the ways I was rating companies wasn't fair. At the end of the day, it's purely just my opinion, guys. If you don't agree, that's totally fine. In fact, let me know in a comment which ones you disagree with or agree with the most. But yeah, that's what I'm going to be weighting the heaviest. I'm sure I'll talk about warranty, durability, and all those things here and there, but it's just not, at the end of the day, the biggest factor for me. And then finally, if you guys have never seen a tier list video, because some of you were a little confused, S is the highest tier, then A, B, C, and F. I know the colors are confusing. S is in red, and then F is in red or in green. Makes it a little confusing, but that's just how they do it. So yeah, let's dive right in. All right, let's start with XBack. So I'm going to put them in B for a couple different reasons. So the price is great. The performance is pretty solid. And if you asked me in December, I put them as one of the best budget options. But since then, a lot of companies have come out with cheaper raw carbon fiber paddles, or at least in the same price range. They're also in the US, they're easier to get a hold of. The paddles aren't made in the US, but the companies are, so customer service is a little easier to get a hold of. They're also not using cringy marketing like XBack, whereas tennis players with photoshopped pickleball paddles in their hands, and then the weight is wrong on their listing. Like, there's a whole lot of things that are just wrong. The paddle itself is great. If you've played with one for $100, you can't go wrong. But when you have all these newer companies kind of in the same price range, I think it bumps XBack down a little bit. Next up, we'll do GRUVN, and I'm also going to put them in B. They were a little bit higher last year, but at this point, they're mostly Gen 1. Well, actually, I think they're all Gen 1 raw carbon fiber paddles, which are not bad by any means, but they're still in the 150 to 160 price range. So when you have all these other companies, Ronbus, Bison, XBack, and probably a couple others that are, $100 or just over $100, it makes it a lot harder for GRUVN to compete with that when they're kind of the same thing. The main thing GRUVN has going for them is that they do have a lot of variety that you can choose from. They have thicknesses, they have shapes, different handle lengths. So that could be a reason to look into GRUVN. But I think in terms of raw performance, there are paddles that are $100 that are going to play very similar to them. So I'm going to go with B, and they're basically getting that B because of the options that they have available. Next up, I'm going to do Gearbox, and I'm going to put this one in C. And this one is basically because of the price, because in my opinion, it really doesn't do anything better than the Gen 1 raw carbon fiber paddles, and they basically just upped the price to $200. So I don't think it's a bad paddle. You could go to a tournament. It's not that it's bad, it's just bad for the price. When I can go buy a Ronbus for basically $100 with a discount code, I don't know why I'd pay double for the GBX. I really don't. So yeah, that one's going to be C for me. All right, Selkirk, I'm going to put them in B. To be honest, I think with a lot of these newer Gen 1 and Gen 2 raw carbon fibers, that paddles that have hit the market, Selkirk's Halo is not the best value. Obviously, Selkirk does have some pretty amazing customer support, and then they've got 2 shapes and 2 thicknesses or whatever. But at $140, again, you've just got paddles that are about $100. They have better spin. That was one of the biggest drawbacks of the Halo, is the spin could have definitely been better. So yeah, I'm going to put them in B. To be honest, it could teeter towards C, but $140 is a better price point than GRUVN, so they're kind of in that same range area. Next, we'll do Legacy, and obviously I'm going to put that in S. Now, I am going to put the asterisks on this, even though I said durability is not the biggest factor for me, because it's not. We don't know for sure yet if the delamination is fixed, right? At this point, it's starting to look good. I've talked about it in several other places, but I've got a buddy of mine who's been hitting 2 thermoformed paddles for over 2 weeks now, hasn't broken them. Previously, he broke a Vatic in 3 days, another one in 7 days, and a Vatic in a Legacy in like a week or 2 weeks. So it's looking great. I haven't managed to break any of the new ones. Everything is trending nicely, but if they continue to delaminate similar to how they were before, that would definitely bump them all down. But if you look at it now and we go with the assumption that it's not going to break with the new fix, S tier for sure. That's not even a question. All right, next up we'll do Diadem, and honestly, that's a pretty easy C for me, and that's just because the Warrior Edge, it's around 175-ish, and it's kind of like the GBX to me, where it doesn't really do anything better than any of these other ones, and it's at a slightly higher price point. So it's not that the Warrior Edge is a bad paddle. I know a lot of people that actually really like the Warrior Edge, but I just think price, performance, it's not doing anything that much better than the others. All right, I'm going to put Ronbus in A tier. To be honest, it would be maybe close to S tier, but it is just a Gen 1 raw carbon fiber paddle. It's about $100 after a discount code. I think they're $120 stock. Yeah, on Amazon, I think you can even find them for $100 with Prime shipping. But it's a great paddle. The Ronbus R1.16 for $100, fantastic paddle. It performs very well, and I would definitely put it, I think I'd put it above XBack in terms of performance. And then, you know, I know Dong a little bit. His customer service seems to be pretty good. People have been enjoying the paddles, so yeah, pretty easy A tier for me. And okay, if we're going to talk about Rhombus, then you guys know I have to talk about the Volair, and I'm going to put it in B. And the main reason for that is, obviously, if you guys watched my video, as far as I can tell, the Ronbus is the same exact thing, but it's about $45 to $60 cheaper. But the Volair still performs well. Like, both of those paddles perform awesome. For Gen 1 raw carbon fiber paddles, they're great. It's just that Volair is more. So, I don't know. Personally, I think the Volair performs better than the Warrior Edge and the GBX. And then it is a little cheaper than both of those. So, yeah, pretty solid B for me. All right, for Ace Pickleball, they are also going in C for me. And that's, again, it's a $200 paddle. I don't think it does anything better. In fact, of the raw carbon fiber paddles I've hit, I would probably put it on the lower ends of one I've hit. Now, to be fair, there is generally variance amongst these paddles. Maybe I got one to hit that was a little bit smoother than the others, but the paddle was just very, very soft. And this was even before I tried a thermoformed paddle, so I didn't even have that to benchmark it against. Felt very soft. Spin wasn't great. And then you factor in $200. It's just, it's not that great. All right, ProKennex, I'm going to put that up in A with their Black Ace. I think the price is really high. $250 is hard to swallow, but I think it's very unique in that it has a very low swing weight, so it's extremely fast in the hands. It's very thin. It's like 10 or 11 millimeter thick. It's got the ProKennex beads inside of it, which, you know, some people argue works, some it doesn't, but I just kind of go on a lot of the real world examples I see, and I see a lot of people saying their tennis elbow stopped hurting when they used a ProKennex paddle. So whether it works or not, I don't know, but I know a lot of people say that it helped them. And the paddle obviously just hits extremely hard, and it's very loud. You'll probably deafen your opponent using that paddle. So A tier for me, good paddle. All right, Vulcan, gonna have to put this one in F tier. I know you guys have been asking me what my thoughts are on the new Vulcan V570s, and I'll probably do a first impressions at some point, but I got to hit the black one, the alleged raw carbon fiber face one. First of all, it's not raw carbon fiber, or at least not what we're traditionally used to seeing. It reminds me a lot of the Franklin, where it kind of looks like a melted liquid on the face when you put it under a microscope. Spin was horrible. It was somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 RPM. And when you take a used, let's say a Yola that's been used for like 6 months, it's probably still not going to be as low as that Vulcan is brand new. So for 150, exposed polymer in the handle, it's just not, yeah, sorry, but that one's going to get an F for me. All right, 6.0, you guys already know I'm going to put that in S tier. I love that paddle. The double black diamond is currently my paddle of choice. I've been absolutely loving that thing. And they do, it's not raw carbon fiber, but they do also have the raw fiberglass one, which is a pretty unique paddle and hits pretty hard, but that doesn't really factor into this because it's not raw carbon fiber. But yeah, they make an exceptional paddle. Absolutely love pretty much everything about it, I hardly have any, for me, any downsides. I don't think that'll be true for everyone, but for me, I think that paddle's awesome. All right, Electrum, that's a tricky one. I'm not going to lie, because I could go B or C, and if that Electrum Elite was out already, this is a great example of what I mean, where it might shift my opinion of this, because I have no idea what the Elite is going to entail. But these days, the Electrum Pro 2, that thing pretty much flopped. I don't see anyone with that thing. I really disliked that paddle. The Model E 13mm, never seen one in the wild. Pretty much the only paddle that people like from Electrum is the Model E. And at this point, I think it's really starting to fall behind, especially when you've got options like Rhombus, even XBack. I don't know. It performs pretty well, but then you factor in a 170, 180 price range. For me personally, this is where I'm just going to put my personal opinion into this and maybe a little less objective. I'm personally going to put them in C. I don't think I would choose to go to a tournament with an Electrum Model E. And that was formerly one of my favorite paddles back in like sometime beginning of last year or maybe even a little before that. I can't remember. I loved the Model E. So yeah, for me, that's going to go C. Bison, going to put them in A. I've hit their paddles a little bit, not super extensively, but again, for the price, and they're very similar to probably what a Carbon 1 or Carbon 2 is. Definitely a solid option. I think they've got some thickness and shape options. So I think that's pretty good, and they're just kind of cheap. So yeah, pretty easy A. Nothing standout, but yeah, just solid. Same thing with Spartis. I played with their 16mm one. I thought it was actually pretty solid Gen 1 raw carbon fiber paddle. No huge complaints with it, and I think it's fairly cheap. Yeah, I just double checked, and they're about $110. So can't go wrong with that one either. I wouldn't expect it to be drastically different from a Bison or maybe even a Ronbus. I haven't checked to see if they have exposed polymer in their handles, which might be a complaint, but I don't think Ronbus does. So in terms of like quality, maybe Rhombus like would eke them out a little bit and it's a little cheaper. But yeah, either way, decent options from them. All right, Engage. That's tricky because I haven't got to hit the Pursuit Ultras myself yet, but $260, and I've been talking to people who do have them, and so far I've not been hearing great things. Most people either say it's not that much of a changed Pursuit. You know, the grit is different on top, and I've heard maybe the paddle is, some people say it's more poppy, some say it's less poppy. It's tough when they're comparing it to a paddle that's very used. $260, man. I think I'm basically going to factor the Ultra out of this since I have not personally hit it. And I think for $220, it's probably a B. I'm giving them a little bit more credit here because their paddles tend to be a little bit more poppy, and some people really like that. I think their non-6.0 models actually still hit really, really hard. So if you're after pop, they're pretty great. Spin has kind of been hit or miss with those in the past. Man, this is actually a really hard one. This is another one where I could go C or B because I think the Pursuit at $220 is really not a good value. Obviously, they do have a lifetime warranty, which I think you have to consider a little bit. Spin is, I don't know. It's kind of been all over the place. Their consistency wasn't great. But $220. This one's actually really tough. I don't know where to put this for me. Okay, I could probably go to a tournament with a Pursuit and not be unhappy, so I'm going to go B. Where these ones, I would not go to a tournament with. So I think I'd go B. But I'm just going to say that for $220, I think the Pursuit is not a good value. I know they do have the blemishes, and they frequently go on sale. So if you can get it for a discounted price, awesome. Very good value if you can get it for one of those prices. But for $220, don't think it's a good value. All right, I'm just going to get these out of the way. Vatic Pro and Carbon, going to put them all in S tier. You guys know they're thermoformed. You know they perform great. We all know that at this point. All right, guys, I just want to put a pretty big disclaimer in this portion of the video because all the thermoformed paddles are in S tier, and I think most of us would agree that their performance would put them there. The big question mark that we still don't really know is the durability, right? Is the delamination solved? Are there going to be any other quality control issues? There's still a lot of things that are very unknown, and I don't want to mislead people into thinking, hey, all of these issues are just completely solved. You should go buy them. They're a perfect paddle. The durability is still up in the air, so if durability is a huge thing for you, watch some reviews, follow the news, and see what happens. But I just really didn't want to mislead people into thinking that these paddles were perfect because I put them in S tier. I was ranking them mostly based on performance and price, which are great, but durability still could be hit or miss. We'll just have to kind of track the market and see what happens. But I wanted people to know that before the video went on. So thanks. Yola, I think they have definitely fallen a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I still think the Hyperion is a phenomenal paddle, but they just break so often. For $220, those handles just snap way too often. The grit tends to go down quite a bit, but I personally still believe that the Hyperion is just an amazing paddle. Like every time I pick it up, I'm like, yeah, this is just a fun paddle. So it's going to go A for me, even though I think the price and the durability are really just not great. This one, I'm basically just going to focus on the performance because I think it just performs really well. But I don't think at the moment Yola is an S tier company. Maybe when the Perseus comes out, we're all waiting for it. We all want to see it. But yeah, I'm gonna go A tier with that for now. All right, Franklin, come on, guys. You already know it was gonna be F. I'm not even gonna go into it. The Franklin signature was a flop. That's all you really need to know with that. All right, Pick Ninja, I'm going to put them in B. Paddle's about $170. It doesn't perform bad. It just doesn't perform different from a bunch of these. And I think that's a big thing you guys should take away from this tier list video is that a lot of these are really similar. For the most part, besides the F tier, none of these are bad paddles. You could use it, and I think people would be happy with it, and they will enjoy the paddle. It's just like, how good of a value is it that you got out of it, right? My brother loves the Electrum Model E. He's finally just switching away from it because his is so busted, but I have given him so many options. I've given him every option from the S tier. He's probably tried almost everything from the A tier. He always goes back to his Model E. So even though it's C tier for me, other people still like it, right? And I think that's a big thing with raw carbon fiber paddles is every company is going to try and sell you on, oh, ours is like using some magic carbon fiber that's way better than everyone else. For the most part, guys, a lot of these are very similar. It's very small things that set them apart. So just keep that in mind. Wild Monkeys, that's a tricky one because it's going to be a C or a B. And I want to say B because it's $100. You get a lifetime warranty. That we have not seen at all with raw carbon fiber pickleball paddles. But unfortunately, it's using a texture similar to the Vulcan or the Franklin. It's not good spin. It was somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 RPM. And I did ask about it, and it seems like the way they're doing it is a much more durable texture. So they wanted it to last and not degrade, you know, like basically everything else in this tier list. But the problem is that the stock performance of it is worse than some of these paddles when they degrade. So I'm going to go C for me because I definitely would not choose to go to a tournament with it. I don't think the paddle's bad. I think for $100, it's got things going for it. And if you're really invested in a lifetime warranty and you don't care about spin, you could check them out. I think there's reasons to look into it, but for me, I wouldn't. All right, ProXR, we've got Zayns paddle. I could hover this. For me, I'd probably hover at B, to be honest. It's not my favorite paddle in the world, but I think it does have things going for it that are pretty appealing. It's got a 6-inch handle. It's got one of the lowest swing weights, if not the lowest swing weight for a raw carbon fiber paddle at that handle length, which I think for some people is very appealing. But for me, I just never was a huge fan of 14 millimeter non-thermoformed paddles. I think thermoforming has made me a much bigger fan of those thinner paddles. But for me, I'd put Zayns somewhere around B. It's like it could be usable, I think, but definitely not on the higher end of the list. And also the price at $210, that makes that tough. To be honest, I could see that kind of bumping it to C, but I'm going to go B because I don't think it's objectively a bad, wow, but the GBX. Okay, let me think about this. So Zayns paddle, would I choose it over a GBX? Yes. Would I choose Zayns paddle over a Warrior Edge? Yes. Would I choose it over a Spade? Yes. Would I choose it over a Wild Monkeys? Yes. The Model E, it's actually a little tougher. I wonder if I need to switch that a little bit. I'm actually gonna, I think I'm gonna readjust this. I'm gonna put Electrum in B, because even though it wouldn't be my first pick, it's still a solid paddle, and I could see the same for Zayns, and I don't think I would bump, like, both of these are better than these, if you ask me. Yeah, okay. I think I'm going to go with B. So, yeah, I mean, there's my tier list, guys. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of it. I loved seeing your comments in the last one. You know, let me know what your S tier, A tier. Let me know what your tier list looks like. I'd love to see it. But this is mine. So, yeah, we'll do a full paddle company tier list at some point when they finally settle down, which might be never. So who knows? Maybe at some point I'll just have to bite the bullet like I did with this one. Obviously, some of these companies have some new stuff coming. So we'll see. Maybe we'll just redo it when it comes out. But thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.